April 1994. Rwanda. A nation in the heart of Africa is about to become the scene of one of the most horrifying human atrocities of the 20th century. Not through bombs. Not through drones. But with machetes, clubs, and betrayal. In just 100 days, over 800,000 lives were extinguished. The world knew. The world watched. The world did nothing. This is not just a story of horror. It is a story of how propaganda, politics, silence, and centuries of division turned ordinary people into monsters. This is the Rwandan genocide. Before we dive into this gripping journey of political history, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on notifications so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Let's keep history alive, one story at a time. To understand the genocide, we must first understand the divisions. Before colonialism, Hutu and Tutsi coexisted in Rwanda under a unified monarchy. The differences were mostly socio-economic. Tutsis were cattle herders, and Hutus were farmers. But when European colonizers arrived, they saw an opportunity to divide and rule. The Germans, and later the Belgians, institutionalized ethnic identity. Identity cards were issued. Tutsis were privileged, considered more European in appearance, and given access to education and power. Resentment grew. And when Rwanda gained independence in 1962, the tables turned. Hutus seized control, and decades of oppression and revenge began to build. Tutsis were targeted in waves of violence. Hundreds of thousands fled into exile. By the late 1980s, many exiled Tutsis had formed the Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, a rebel army that launched incursions into Rwanda from Uganda. Inside Rwanda, Hutu extremists began spreading propaganda, warning that the Tutsis were planning to reclaim power and oppress the Hutus. Radio television Libre de Mille Collines, RTLM, began its broadcasts. At first, it played music and news. But soon, it became a powerful weapon of hate, describing Tutsis as cockroaches, traitors, and enemies. The public was told to arm themselves, to prepare. Meanwhile, France, Belgium, and the UN had troops and observers in Rwanda. Intelligence was circulating. But no one acted. On April 6, 1994, President Juvenal Habyarimana's plane was shot down as it approached Kigali Airport. He was returning from peace negotiations with the RPF. The explosion lit the sky, and ignited a firestorm of violence. Within hours, roadblocks were set up by government forces and militias. Lists had already been prepared, of Tutsi leaders, journalists, human rights activists. They were hunted down. The Prime Minister, Agathe Uwilingiyimana, was murdered. UN peacekeepers who tried to protect her were tortured and killed. It was a pre-planned extermination. The genocide had begun. The Interahamwe, a civilian militia supported by the government, unleashed unimaginable brutality. Tutsis were dragged from their homes, schools, hospitals. Churches, once places of refuge, became slaughterhouses. Families were hacked to death in front of each other. Rape was weaponized. Tens of thousands of women were raped, many infected with HIV by men known to be carriers. Children were left to die beside their murdered parents. And the rivers ran red with blood. RTLM continued its broadcasts, directing the killers, "Do your work. Clear the brush. Kill the cockroaches." Teachers killed students. Doctors killed patients. Neighbors turned on neighbors. This wasn't war. This was a methodical genocide. Even moderate Hutus who opposed the killings were marked for death. It was not Tutsi versus Hutu, it was extremist versus anyone who opposed them. Despite clear warnings, the United Nations refused to call it a genocide. Why? Because under the Genocide Convention, that would require action. The US, France, and Belgium evacuated their citizens, and left Rwandans behind. General Romeo Dallaire, the UN force commander in Rwanda, begged for reinforcements. He had intel about planned massacres weeks before they began. He was ignored. Instead of sending more troops, the UN reduced his forces. Western media gave the crisis brief coverage. Governments called it tribal conflict, a sanitized phrase that cloaked the horror. While leaders debated, bodies decomposed on the streets. But amid the darkness, some resisted. Paul Rusesabagina, manager of the Hotel de Mille Collines, used his connections and voice to protect over 1,000 people. Some priests and nuns hid Tutsis. Brave individuals risked everything to do what the world would not, save lives. Meanwhile, the Rwandan Patriotic Front advanced from the north, gradually taking back territory. By July 1994, the RPF seized Kigali. The genocide ended. But at what cost? Over 800,000 murdered. Over 2 million displaced. An entire country shattered. The killers fled into the Congo. Refugee camps were established, but many were controlled by the same genocidaires. Rwanda faced the impossible task of rebuilding. Of seeking justice. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda was established. Some leaders were tried and convicted. But thousands of killers walked free. In villages, Rwanda created Gakaka courts, community-based justice systems that emphasized truth-telling and reconciliation. The process was painful, but for many survivors, it was the only path to healing. Rwanda taught us that genocide is never spontaneous. It is planned, cultivated, and executed when hate is allowed to grow unchecked. It taught us that international indifference can be deadly. That the refusal to say genocide is itself a form of complicity. And perhaps most tragically, Rwanda proved that never again is just a slogan until people have the courage to act on it. Today, Rwanda has rebuilt. It is a nation striving for unity, memory, and healing. But the ghosts of 1994 still whisper in the wind. Let their cries remind us, hate starts with words, but ends in blood. Speak up. Act early. Because silence is never neutral. This was the story of Rwanda. Remember it. Share it. And promise, never again. If this story moved you, if it made you think, or opened your eyes to a piece of African history often overlooked, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe to this channel for more untold stories of leaders who shaped, and shook, their nations. Like, comment, and share this video so others can learn from the rise, and the fall. History has lessons. Let's not ignore them.